Hey everybody, welcome back for another memory keeping video. So this is for the week of May 19th through the 25th. So basically graduation part 2 because the week prior, my second to last sister graduated from college. This week, my youngest sister graduated from college. If you're new here, no, they are not twins. They're a year apart. But just due to some transfer stuff, one of them ended up doing the 5-year plan instead of the 4-year plan. No shame. Anyway, I am using a very, very old kit from Cinderella Paper. I don't even remember what the name was, maybe like Grads or something. I bought this years ago knowing I wanted to have this art stashed away in my collection just because I feel like graduation kits can be far and few between, and sometimes they're not available in shops when I need them. I also had a lot of leftovers of an even older version of this kit that I used in 2020 for when I finished my master's degree. So I pulled in mostly icons from those vinyl sticker sheets. So you'll see those throughout the week. And then the actual kit that I'm using is on like a kind of a regular mat. Cinderella Paper's mat was always a little bit different than everyone else's, but I believe she's in Singapore. I cannot remember. Somewhere in that part of the world. So what's available to her product-wise is probably different, although who knows. I do not know how the globalized economy works. I didn't study business or economics ever. So moving on. So the week prior, or the weekend prior anyway, we were in San Diego from the Friday to the Sunday. We drove home Sunday if you didn't watch that plan with me, although it might be easier if you just go back and watch that plan with me. And then Monday the 19th, we were home. And then Tuesday night, we drove down to Berkeley to stay with my sister who was graduating and my other sister who had already graduated because she was already in town. And then Wednesday was the Berkeley graduation, and then we went home. It was a very busy, 6 days. I didn't really have to work much this week though, because I had graded everything that was in my inbox up to this point. And then my final projects deadline for all of my classes was the end of Thursday of this week. So Monday I did a bunch of participation and homework grade stuff that I had to input. I had all the grades for it. I just needed to put it into the system so students could see it. And then I had some Zoom office hours because during finals week, we're allowed to have our office hours by Zoom. Actually, we're allowed, at least in this district that I was working in, we're allowed to always have our office hours by Zoom. But usually I just find it easier if I'm teaching an in-person class to just have an in-person office hour. Yeah, I don't think any students used my Zoom office hours this week, but that's okay. I was there and I honestly just used it as an opportunity to answer emails during a very set scheduled time. So yeah, I didn't have to do a whole lot of work. I took care of that on Monday and a little bit on Tuesday, and then Wednesday and Thursday was just celebrating the graduation, which was really nice. I wasn't a big fan of the people drawn in this kit, so that's why this guy ended up on the extender. I totally messed up that extender though, so it didn't end up even, but I think it turned out okay. I always love the grad cap in this art. I believe this is Coffee Doodle's art. So the cap says, "It always seems impossible until it is done." And I thought that was fitting, especially for a Berkeley graduation. So me, my youngest brother, and my youngest sister all share an alma mater with my dad, the University of California, Berkeley. We love to be, not by we I mean the Berkeley community at large, love to be slightly obnoxious about the fact that it was the original University of California. So technically we are the University of California, and all the other ones are the ones where you have to specify where it is. But let's be real, it's University of California, Berkeley. My sister's ceremony on Wednesday was the Global Studies and Political Economy graduation. So fairly small ceremony. Inside Zellerbach Hall. It was really warm in Berkeley these 2 days that we were there. And because it's the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, a lot of people don't have air conditioning, including my sister, because it's just, most of the time it hasn't been necessary. And nowadays it's starting to seem like it might be. So Tuesday night we drove down, my husband and I, after he was done with work. And I just thought it would be a good idea to stay the night before because the graduation was at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. And having had experience with traffic in that area, I'm like, I do not want to be late for this thing and be struggling to find parking. Yeah, I was trying to figure out my verb tenses there. Sorry. So yeah, we went down and slept on the floor of my sister's apartment. My other sister was already there, and then the rest of the family came down Wednesday morning. They got up at like 5 or something to drive from where my parents live. So that was fun for them. I ended up getting very little sleep, unfortunately. I think all of us were pretty sleep deprived, and I was very grouchy, and I felt bad about feeling grouchy and impatient with people, but I think I was just graduationed out, and also found out later in the week that I was probably PMSing, which is not an excuse because I should have control over my words and actions even when I'm in a bad mood. But it is an explanation, so there's that. So in the sidebar, I had no habits to track, and I had nothing else written in the sidebar of my Plum paper planner, which is what I use just as a pen and paper planner to plan out my week. I had like one thing on my weekly to-do list that I keep in the sidebar of that planner, and we didn't even do it. It's like some long-term planning stuff for my husband and I, and we were so worn out after this week that we just did not do it. We still haven't done it. We need to do it, but like I said, it's like a long-term planning thing, so hopefully it's not urgent. It's not really, so anyway, all I put in the sidebar of my decorative planner then was dinners, and then I'm going to put in a half box at the bottom of the sidebar, but I'm just going to fill it up with deco. The deco sheets in this plan with me are not the exact same art, but they look very similar. I feel like they might be Coffee Doodles art as well. I feel like Coffee Doodles Co. did like a couple different versions of this art, both this exact one and then an earlier one. I might be wrong about that. I don't remember. I think her name's Elaine. I don't remember if she's still doing art anymore, but I really did enjoy this one because I love a good graduation kit, and I love a good graduation, even if I get grumpy at them sometimes, which again, I'm sorry to everyone involved. Wednesday morning, I didn't mark this in my planner, but part of the reason I was stressed is that where my sister lives, she doesn't have a car because she lived right near campus on the north side, and like there was no need to have a car. Really, there's no need to have a car in Berkeley. I didn't have a car in Berkeley. The few people who did have cars when I was in school who were students like me were usually a bit older, and they always struggled to like move their car so they wouldn't get a ticket. Like long-term parking in Berkeley is kind of hard. So I kind of ran into that on Wednesday morning. Like the parking in front of my sister's apartment was technically only 2 hours, and like I might not have gotten caught, but then I had to figure out at the last minute like where to park. I hadn't really planned it very well because I thought I was just going to leave my car in front of her apartment, but I didn't. And then at some point, luckily she walked pretty early in the ceremony because I had parked at a metered spot and then was like, oh gosh, we're going to be in this ceremony for more than 2 hours. So my husband and one of my brothers ended up leaving the graduation a little bit early. She had already walked, and honestly, it was just to, be polite and make sure to cheer everybody else as well. They went and checked on the car and figured it out for me, thank goodness, because I was like, I cannot deal with this anymore. So that was part of the reason I was grumpy, is just like, I've only gotten one parking ticket in Berkeley, and it was like a million years ago. I think I was visiting my husband during the summer months because he was supposed to have an internship for the summer in Berkeley, and it just did not work out. I think it was like, we're not going to get into that. But yeah, I misread the sign and thought that parking was free on Saturdays. It was not, so I ended up with a parking ticket. It's free. It was free on Sundays at the time, and nowadays it's probably not even free on Sundays. So yeah, that's like the only parking ticket I've got though in my entire life. So that's a pretty good track record. I generally have good reading comprehension of signs, although sometimes they are tricky, and I feel like they're tricky on purpose. Okay, that got me through the whole base, is ranting about Berkeley parking. I love Berkeley. It's always going to hold a special place in my heart. It's where I met my husband. I loved going to school there. But it is a city vibe. It is, I used my bus pass so much when I was there. I walked everywhere when I was there. My legs were in great shape, so did not need a car. Anyway, Monday, the first thing I'm going to mark is that it would be 2 months until our My Chemical Romance concert. And then I did some yoga, so I'm going to mark that with a Sweet Ava's paper cat and a workout script from the kit. Then I'm going to mark the work that I was doing for my job this day. So just inputting basically like participation points, homework scores for one of my classes because I tracked that for my developmental class and all that type of stuff. So I just have this desktop computer from, I believe it's from Bunny Pair Plans. Then I'm going to mark doing my Zoom office hour with a little push pin from the leftover icons from that other old kit. And then I voiced over a plan with me, so I'm going to put in a Sweet Ava's Paper cat for that. I did do laundry. I forget why, maybe I was just like behind on laundry because we had been gone the week before. I think that was it, because a lot of times lately I've been doing my laundry on Fridays, but we were gone the Friday before this. So yeah, did laundry. So I have an icon from the old kit and a script from this kit. And then Evie, unfortunately, remember how I was talking a few Plan With Me's ago about Evie shedding her fur everywhere? Yeah, she gets horrible hairballs, even with us brushing her. So I marked that with an icon from Planet Hannah. And then I was restarting watching Bones. I think I was picking up like season 11 at this point. So I marked that with this cute crime scene Molly from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. There's like one episode of Bones that is like, I think it was like the 200th episode. Apparently it was like controversial because like they made it like an old Hollywood movie and they were totally different characters. And some of my favorite episodes of that show are the ones where they like do an alternate reality and make the actors and actresses like totally different characters. I think it's fun. Anyway, so that's what those Itty Bitty Sticker Co. Mollies remind me of. Tuesday, the first thing I marked with a Beneva Creations happy face and a Planet Hannah cat icon was that we were 1 year FIP free for Clover. And then the second thing I marked was that it had been 5 years since our second family dog passed away. And I was highlighting how both of my childhood dogs, although I was like 14 when we got both of them, so kind of childhood, kind of young adulthood, both of them passed away in May of the years when they passed. So it's a little bit sad. That's a very old Fox and Cactus sticker, a vintage Fox and Cactus sticker, if you will. It's still in great condition. Did more yoga. And then speaking of vintage Fox and Cactus stickers, I pulled another one, a Pokemon one, because I decided to reinstall Pokemon Go on my phone this day. I don't know why. I'm like revisiting all these games I used to play. I think I just have free time right now. The last few years of my life have been a bit chaotic. So let me know if you're still playing Pokemon Go. If you need any new friends over there, I'm available. Let me know. And then there's a bunch of old icons here from the old kit that I'm using to mark various things. So I marked my Zoom office hour. I marked an appointment that I'm not going to talk about. I had to pack to go to Berkeley, so that's from Sweet Ava's Paper. And then we played with the cats because we were going out of town again. So that is from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. We stopped by Jersey Mike's to pick up a large sub for dinner, although my husband ended up getting takeout at a place in Berkeley. I forgot that like places in Berkeley tend to stay open a lot later because there's a student population, whereas things in Sacramento really don't stay open that late. And then we did a bunch of stuff at my sister's, mostly just like chatted, gossiped, etc. Talked about the meaning of life, my family. But I just marked all of that with an icon of a couple of sleeping cats to mark being at Christina's apartment. Her roommate adopted a really cute calico cat this year, and the cat seemed okay with us, but at the same time, she kept pacing around all night. She was probably like, why are you on the floor? This is weird. So yeah, and then the next day I marked being awake at 4 because unfortunately I got very little sleep. I used a Molly from Itty Bitty Sticker Co., a couple of Mollies right there actually, to mark the graduation ceremony and the family pictures afterwards. And then I marked being a little bit of I don't even know what to call myself. I just was very impatient this day and grumpy, unfortunately. So that is from Sweet Ava's Paper. And then we went to a restaurant at the Tilden Golf Course, which is in the hills above Berkeley. Very nice. It was really hot this day, unfortunately, though. So I ended up with my sunburned scalp, unfortunately. So I marked that with family time. My food was fine. It's just like I was so tired and my stomach was kind of upset already that I didn't really enjoy it that much, but it was fine food. I just didn't love it. And then I used this devil and angel on the shoulder Molly from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. to write in, and am I a bad person? Because I felt like a very bad person this day. I just felt super impatient. I don't know, I just was not in a good mood. We drove home. I had an upset stomach, and then this was an Everybody's Live with John Mulaney night, and then I watched more Bones. So that was Wednesday, a very busy, very exhausting day. Thursday, the first thing I marked was my husband working from home. Very sadly, there was a small plane crash in San Diego, basically like 15 minutes away from where we all had been the weekend before. Luckily, none of my family was in San Diego this day because we were all up here for the Berkeley graduation. So I marked that with a RIP Munchkin from Once More with Love. And then, ironically, question mark, I was booking a flight to San Diego this day. Granted, this was, a major airliner, so not the type of plane that very sadly crashed this day, but I did want to make sure I got my flight booked because I wanted to go see my sister's ballet performance in like 2 weeks, and I was very much over driving at that point to San Diego. So I was like, I'm flying. I cashed in a bunch of my Southwest points because I had a bunch from flying back and forth with Clover all of 2020, not all of 2024, but like that whole period where I was doing that from 2023 to 2024. Did you know when you fly with a pet, you do not get points for that, even though it costs money? That's fun. Anyway, this day I was listening to a lot of Sticky Bun Boys and Boneheads, which are two podcasts that I like. So that's like an audiobook sticker, but we're going to pretend it's a podcast sticker because I was out of podcast stickers. And then 3 of my siblings came over for a game night. So we played Settlers of Catan with 2 of my brothers and 1 of my sisters. So that game night, Molly, is from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. We played a bunch of our records on our record player, so that was fun. We gave the cats churro to calm them down and make them more amenable to my siblings being over. And then it turned out that Evie really liked my oldest brother. And when I say oldest brother, I am the oldest in the family, but he's the one who's my first brother, if that makes sense, but he's 2 years younger than me. So I was very surprised. Clover has gotten a lot more cautious about strangers lately, which is funny because when we got her, she didn't care at all. She was just a happy-go-lucky kitten. But I think because she's had literal trauma, she's more suspicious. She's just getting suspicious of people in her adulthood. But Evie seems to be like growing out of it, growing more secure. She's going to be 8 this year, and we've had her for like 4.5 years at this point. So I feel like she's more comfortable around strangers. So yeah, my brother just kind of like held his hand out to her very casually, and she came up to him and was like rubbing up all against him. And I was like, this is so unexpected and funny. And then the last thing I marked on Thursday was just that it was the final project deadlines for all of my classes. Friday, I marked my husband working from home again. I marked that it was 2 months till our Death Cab for Cutie concert, so that microphone is from Planet Hannah. And then this is where I found out why I was being such a grumpus. A few days prior, I got cramps. That's from Itty Bitty Sticker Co. I decided to sleep in a little bit this day because I was kind of pacing myself with finishing up grading. This day I graded my, I don't know what to call it, not a developmental class, but like kind of a co-requisite class. I graded their grammar tests and their revisions, and then I watched more Bones. Saturday, I marked playing with Clover. That's from Planet Hannah. I marked doing the budget, and I marked watching more Boneheads podcast. So I just put a little music note for that because I didn't have a better icon for that. And I do like the little jingle that plays at the beginning of the podcast. And then the 2 Mollies at the bottom of Saturday are from Itty Bitty Sticker Co., of course. So I did film my final Q4 flip through for 2024 at the end of May, finally. And I filmed a plan with me as well, and then I watched a lot more Bones. Sunday, we went on a little hike, so we checked out the Cosumnes River Preserve, which is like a wetlands area. There's also a river that runs through there, south of the city. So that was really nice. I had never been out there, and it was a really beautiful little nature area. So probably won't go there in the summer, but I feel like late spring is a nice time to be there. And then what else happened that day? I just kind of had a lazy day. That script is from Magical Sticker Co. I did some reading. That's from Sweet Ava's Paper. And then I watched more Bones. So that is also from Sweet Ava's Paper. It's just a judge sticker instead of a crime scene sticker because that show, sometimes we've got courtroom drama. Sometimes we got crime scene drama. A lot of it's lab drama, but got a good mix of things. I guess that's another type of sticker I could use for Bones is like any science stickers I have. But yeah, that is this week. That's going to close out graduation season for this year, 2 whole weeks of graduations. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. I hope you are doing well, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye.